Hey everyone, and welcome to Darkcast Interviews. I'm your host, Jonathan Miley. DCI is a long-form interview podcast where we talk to game creators about new and upcoming video games, as well as who they are and what they do behind the scenes. In this episode, I talk with Knudsen from Laserbrain Studios about his new game, Hidden Asset, which is a isometric stealth game inspired by the likes of XCOM, Fallout, Commandos, and Hitman. For more information about the game, as well as links to Christian's development diaries on YouTube, check out the links in the show notes to this episode. You can find all of that on darkstation.com, as well as the original Darkcast and other video game reviews, previews, and features. Be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, follow us on Twitter at darkstation_com, find us on Facebook, check us out on YouTube, and email us at podcast@darkstation.com. As always, thank you so much for listening. Now on with the show. Welcome back to the Darkcast, everybody. I'm Jonathan Miley, and we are back with Darkcast Interviews with a really cool game that is coming out. It's not coming out. It's Kickstarter is coming out very soon, and joining me today to talk about that is Mr. Knudsen. How are you doing, Christian?
I am fine, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're talking to people about the video games that they're making, which is one of my favorite things to do. But before we get into the game itself, I always like to get to know the person behind it. So can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do on Hidden Asset?
Sure. Well, I'm 40 years old and I live in Denmark with my wife and son. And I pretty much do everything on Hidden Asset. I'm a one-man studio, so I do the design and programming and 95% of the artwork and the marketing and and the laundry and the vacuuming and pretty much everything.
You're the CEO and the janitor. It's
exactly. I can fire myself. But that's like more or less a hobby for me. It's not my full-time job. I work as a freelance translator in my day job, and then try to squeeze in as much game development as I can in my spare time, which is not always that much, but
sure,
I try.
Yeah, understandable. So how long have you been making games as a hobby?
Probably like 15 years, I think. I started in high school where I learned programming. They had a minor computer programming course that was 1 hour a week. And that's where I learned Pascal, which I'm still programming in. And I did some programming, made some small games following that for a few years. But then I got into my head that I wanted to work in movies. And I wanted to be a screenwriter. So I attended European Film College here in Denmark. And I moved to Copenhagen and wrote some screenplays and tried to get inside the business. But I got some contacts, but I kind of figured out that I didn't want to spend that many years of my life working on something that might not get made.
Sure.
And that's kind of when my mind returned to programming and making games, because when doing that, there's only one guy that stops me from doing it, and that's me. So there was a break there for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years where I didn't do any programming, but then I returned to it in the early 2000s, I think, and made some smaller games and made a roguelike kind of game, a space roguelike, that became a minor success, got a small following and formed a small community around it. And then I wanted to make a graphical version of that, actually. which then sort of transformed into Hidden Asset.
Ah, okay.
So it's been a long journey getting to where I am now.
Sure.
And I think Hidden Asset itself I worked on for like 7 or 8 years in my spare time.
Wow, that's some commitment right there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's foolish or just commitment, passion, or whatever it is.
So just going back to your screenwriting days, did you actually ever get any of your screenplays optioned or picked up by anybody?
No, I wrote some short scripts that I made myself and directed myself, and I wrote some feature film screenplays that I submitted to some production companies here in Denmark and heard back and had some meetings, but nothing never came of it.
Okay.
And then I had an internship at another production company where I also discovered that some of the scripts that were in production there, like 2 or 3 years after I had finished my internship, they contacted me about translating some of those scripts. And that's kind of when it hit me that, okay, they're still working on these scripts like 2 or 3 years after I stopped there. I don't want to be a screenwriter and spend that many years on something like that. That's never going to get made.
Yeah. Wow. That's a long time. That's really kind of funny. Just hearing you talk about that. When I got out of college, I had 2 job opportunities. One was to be a producer's assistant at a very small television studio, and have like a 6-month internship with the possibility of working there afterwards.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Yeah, or I could go into IT, which I'd done some work in during college, and could get paid like twice as much as I was going to get paid potentially after 6 months, in a week. And I was like, well, there are these things called bills. I kind of need to pay them. I guess I'm going to do the job that actually pays me.
Yeah, like bills are something that you have to pay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Also, hence this Kickstarter for Hidden Asset.
Absolutely. So your formal training is in script writing? Is that?
Well, I have a master's in film studies.
Okay.
So it's not specifically script writing. It's it's more general than that. But I also did some script writing at the film college and did some directing there. So I don't have any formal training in script writing, just like watching a lot of movies and reading hundreds and hundreds of screenplays from my favorite writers and directors.
Right.
That's mostly it.
So how do you feel like that's impacted kind of the way that you make games? A lot of times, we hear about video games wanting to be very, movie-like.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest fan of that idea, but there is kind of a nature of storytelling to movies. Do you feel like that's changed the way that you are trying to tell a story, or even just approach making a video game like Hidden Asset?
It probably has. I think I early on set a rule for myself that I wasn't allowed to concern myself too much with the story before I felt that I had the gameplay not exactly nailed, but at least the solid foundation for it. So that's probably one thing that it did. And it's not exactly like my game is really that narrative based. There's a story, and it's not all that clear in the demo yet, but there is a story, and I have many ideas for how the stories are going to evolve and all the twists and turns involved in that. But I really feel like I'm making a game, so it has to have solid gameplay. And I hope I've nailed that. It can probably use a bit of polishing here and there still, but it's not the final game I'm launching. It's just a Kickstarter, so there's still time to to polish all that stuff. But yeah, I think I agree with you about narratives in video games. That I want them to be there, but I don't want it to be the focus of the game. Mm-hmm. It should complement the gameplay in some way at least, and not just be like a story slapped on top of some gameplay that doesn't necessarily fit it.
Right. Right. That was always, I mean, stories in video games have always had issues, but I feel like in the early to mid 2000s, once video games were becoming this very potentially profitable thing, we started seeing all these like Hollywood names thrown onto us, like story by this person, and you could just tell that like they wrote the story in isolation, and then it was kind of literally slapped onto the game. And you're just like, these don't go together. This maybe you should. I don't know. This doesn't work. Don't do it this way.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when CD-ROMs came and we got all those full FMV,
full
games.
motion videos.
Yeah. Let's get some stars and try to make a movie in a game. No, it doesn't work that way.
So no surprise announcement. No, Mark Hamill's not going to be in your video game.
Hey man, if he wants to be, he's welcome.
Awesome.
But, yeah. I think Wing Commander is one of my favorite games. Well, actually, the Privateer version, the Wing Commander Privateer, he's not in that. I think he was in the later ones. But yeah, he seems like a cool guy. So
he does.
I'll take him if you want.
The offer's there, Mark. If you're listening, you can totally be in this video game.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about what Hidden Asset is. Kind of give us the... I know before we started the show, I said this wasn't going to be elevator pitch, but just to kind of start things off, what is, I guess, the basic elevator pitch for Hidden Asset?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a stealth game, and it's in some ways an old school stealth game. It's from an isometric, top-down, 60-degree, whatever perspective. But it's real time, and you're only controlling one guy, whereas many of the older games were turn-based, and you had a party. And you're controlling this average Joe guy whose name just happens to be Joe. And he's living in a world that has been struck by a pretty harsh economic crisis. So many people are losing their jobs, and the government didn't really know what to do about it. So they kind of gave all corporations carte blanche to do whatever they wanted. Like, okay, you fix this, we can't. And that resulted in big corporations starting to hire assassins to take out their competition. So you're this guy, Joe, and he has just lost his job, and he needs to pay the bills, like we talked about earlier. So
neither of us have been assassins, though, just to make that clear.
Hey, you don't know if I've been...
Okay, I haven't been an assassin. This may be more autobiographical than we were expecting, but...
That's a secret. You have to cut that. Well, so anyway, you're this guy Joe, and he decides to I'm going to try to give this hired assassin business a try. So you're just starting out as an assassin when you play the game, and the demo is the first two missions. Like the first is the tutorial mission, which is the very first assassination job he gets sent on. So you're basically controlling this guy around the level. The first level is a nightclub, and then it becomes business offices and so on. And it's not really all that action oriented. I'm really trying to focus on the stealth part on it. And so you'll mostly be sneaking around. You will be attacking some guys and maybe sometimes getting involved in some melee combat. But mostly you'll be trying to avoid that. So you will be sneaking around, and you'll have access to more and more gadgets the further you get into the game. You, of course, earn money for the missions you complete. The more stealthy you complete the missions, the more you earn, and then you can use that money to buy more gadgets and more weapons that you can use on future missions. So that's basically it. I've taken an inspiration from a lot of different games. Some of it is from the new XCOM games, especially the cover system in that game is high and low cover. So you'll be sneaking around from cover to cover to avoid being spotted by guards and other hostiles. But like I said before, it's real time, contrary to XCOM. So it's kind of a hybrid between a turn-based and a real-time game in that way, since it's also tile-based. So you'll have move from one tile that's in cover to another tile that's in cover, but also running around and in a panic if you get spotted.
Of course, as happens in stealth games.
Yes, exactly.
Can you lose enemies if you've been caught? Can you escape and kind of, hide in the shadows and have things reset? Or
yeah, you can.
Okay.
You can run away from them and just hide and hope that they return to their patrol route that they were on. But there are also gadgets in the levels. For example, there are fire extinguishers that you can activate, so smoke will fill the room, and then that will help you to escape. And you also have smoke grenades that you can throw, but they're different from fire extinguishers in that if somebody notices a smoke grenade, they'll react differently to that than a fire extinguisher that they probably just think is leaking or whatever.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you can get out of a tough situation, but if you get swarmed, it's gonna be pretty hard. You're probably gonna die. You're a fragile guy. Okay. Like one or two shots and you're dead.
That's pretty fragile. That's So you mentioned that the kind of basic setup is that there's been an economic crisis. The country went nuts, as they tend to do, and gave carte blanche to corporations. So now you're one of the assassins that is taking out other corporations. Do you have kind of the basic plot mapped out, or are you waiting to kind of just do that as you create the levels?
I have it pretty mapped out.
Okay.
You're gonna get involved in some pretty shady business that's gonna go to high places in the country.
I don't know. I feel like assassinating other corporations is already pretty shady business.
That's true. That's true.
But we're getting shadier.
We're getting even shadier, and that's like there's in the universe of the game. There's going to be a vote soon about whether or not to continue this giving companies a carte blanche, and of course some companies want to make that continue on, and other people don't want it to continue on. So there might be some politicians that are opposed to that continuing on, that those corporations don't want to see hanging around for all that long.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil everything.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So what kind of condition is the game in now? If somebody wants to back your game, like where are you at in terms of the development?
I'm at what you would probably call alpha now. I feel like I have the foundation of all the gameplay, or at least the most basic gameplay done, and I've got all the systems for making everything for the game, like systems for making cutscenes and the artwork and everything. So I currently have 2 missions pretty much completely done, the first 2 missions, which are also what you will be playing in the demo for the Kickstarter. So I basically have to expand on what I have now and add more missions and the story and cutscenes and weapons and more gadgets and all that stuff. But there's a solid foundation there that I just have to build upon now.
Okay.
And I wanted that done before I did the Kickstarter. I could probably have made a Kickstarter like 4 or 5 years ago just with some videos, but I really wanted a solid demo done for the Kickstarter. I feel like too many Kickstarters are just selling a dream without giving potential backers a real chance for trying it out and seeing, okay, is this something for me or is it not?
Sure.
I'd rather have someone not back than back and then be really disappointed when they actually try the game.
Mm-hmm. Sure, absolutely. So what would you say is kind of the core gameplay loop that you're doing, like when you're playing the game?
Yeah. Well, you get sent on these assassination missions, and then you complete them and you return to your home base or whatever it is and buy some new equipment and get a new mission, and it sort of evolves. But I kind of wanted it to be a bit more free form, so you can actually at any point leave a mission area and return to to your home and buy more equipment or whatever you want, and then return and continue on with the mission. You live in this pub or this bar. You live on top of the bar. You have an apartment there, and your agent is just sitting in the bar and offers you new missions. And in the back room of the bar, you can buy equipment from some shady military dudes who sell off some surplus equipment. I kind of wanted to avoid having the player interacting too much with computer screens. Like in Hitman and many other stealth games, you get your missions through like an iPad or a computer screen or whatever. But I wanted it to be more with having the player character interacting with other characters and getting missions for them. Maybe that's the screenwriting background coming in there.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of been a staple since, I don't know, I mean, the first Metal Gear Solid, everything was through these, video chat animated screens.
Exactly.
And then the classic Tom Clancy games were always, pictures of where you're going, and I mean, it's like you're being given a dossier, but you're just staring at the paperwork. You don't actually see the person giving it to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and I think one of my inspirations for that was the movie Heat.
Okay.
I haven't watched it in a long time actually, but I remember the guy that got them the missions. I can't remember who he was played by, but I always liked that low-tech feel of it. That it's just guys meeting in a shady back room and deciding on more or less to kill some guy or commit a bank robbery or whatever it is they do in Heat. So even though you'll have all this fancy equipment available to you in the game, I wanted the other part to be more like just people talking and exchanging money and missions and stuff like that.
Okay. So, you mentioned that the game is a stealth game, but I feel like there are a lot of different type of stealth games. Like Splinter Cell is based in, light and kind of sound, and so you're wanting to hide in the shadows and be quiet. Something like Hitman is very social stealth, where you're putting on disguises and you're trying to take out people, with rat poison in their drink or whatever. How does the stealth mechanic work in Hidden Asset? And I just realized this is a very important question. Can I kill my targets with rat poison in their drink?
Not currently in the demo. I try to have a few environment things you can interact with, but the main kills are currently something you have to do manually, like sneak up behind and slit their throats or shoot them from a distance. So I guess it's probably a bit more in the Tom Clancy vein. Like that. You can also currently put on costumes and outfits and stuff like that. But that's currently more a limitation of the artwork system I have set up, because it's all pre-rendered 3D, 2D sprites. So if I have to make a new outfit for the player character, I have to make 2,000 sprites or something. But
Gotcha.
That's probably something that will come in the full game. It's just not currently in the demo.
Okay.
And there is also a sound mechanic. There's a tactical view that you can engage with, which helps you see all the objects you can interact with and all the power lines in the building and stuff like that. And that will also show you the radius of the sound you make when you're walking around or whatever it is you're doing. And you can lower that radius by engaging other sounds in your surroundings. For example, in an office building, you can activate a photocopier machine, and that will make enough noise to drown out your footsteps if you're not running, for example. So there's a bit of a sound mechanic. That definitely is. I tried to play around with light, but it's pretty difficult, I think, to get across if you don't have an eye popping off on the screen showing exactly, okay, now you're in darkness, now you're in light. And I feel that's a bit too binary in a way.
Right.
And if that isn't there, then it's kind of difficult for the player to see, okay, am I in shadow now? Is this dark enough area, or is it just my monitor being dark? Or So I prefer to focus on the sound aspect of it.
Okay, that's cool. I can definitely appreciate that because early Splinter Cell games I always loved that you had this meter, and so most of the time you weren't in pure light or pure darkness. It was always kind of this space in between. But as the games progressed and became more mainstream, for lack of a better word, they simplified that mechanic to now you're completely hidden, now you're completely not hidden.
Yeah.
And I always felt like that was just kind of a cop-out because, that's not the way it works in real life or in previous games.
That's true. That's not the way it works, but I kind of understand why they did it, because if you have a meter, then it's like, okay, you're halfway down the meter. What does that mean? Does that mean that like there's a 50% chance of a guard seeing you? And is that like a 50% chance every half a second or whatever? So it becomes more, it becomes harder for the player to predict what's going to happen, I feel.
Right.
Whereas in my game, it's like if you're not in cover, actually light does play a bit of a part. If you're in darkness, it'll take longer for a guard that's seeing you to react to seeing you.
Okay.
But when a guard sees you, there's like an eyeball. So I actually do have an eyeball. So there's an eyeball above the guard's head that will gradually fill. And when that's complete full, he will react to seeing you. And if you're in shadow, then that eyeball will fill slower. But he will see you. Okay. It's just a question of how fast he reacts to seeing you, or like his brain registers, okay, there's someone over there I have to to check out.
Gotcha. So is there currently a way besides just kind of looking at the game and seeing shadows or not? If you're kind of in shadows, does anything change on the game, or is it just you kind of gauge by whether or not there's a overhead light above you that you're in darkness or shadows?
Yeah, it's mostly the latter. Okay. Like, okay, if you're in brightness, then the guard will react faster to seeing you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned that you can buy weapons and gadgets and stuff like that. A lot of those are still to come as you work on the game. But what are some of the options that you have to kind of get through a level?
Sure.
As far as weapons and gadgets?
Yeah. I think the one I enjoy the most currently is an electric trap. There are scattered around the level. There are these junction boxes where you can switch power lines off and on. But if you buy this electric trap, then in a radius of I think it's like 5 or 8 tiles from that junction box, you can place this trap on the floor. And then when a guard walks over it, you trigger that trap, and then he gets electrocuted. And that's pretty cool to do, I think. And you can also... Yeah?
I was just going to say, is that a reusable thing? Once I shock somebody with that, can I...
It is.
I take it and put it somewhere else and
it is.
do the same thing? Okay.
But once you've triggered it, it takes a time for it to recharge. So you both have to time exactly when you trigger it, because if you trigger it too early, the guard will spot, okay, there's electricity going on the floor there. I'm going to turn around and not step on that tile. But you can go over and retrieve it and then use it again somewhere else. But the limitation is that it can only be used within a small radius of one of these power line junction boxes in a level. So you have to spot, okay, there's one over there and there's one over there, and this guard is patrolling this route. Is he going to go across a tile that I can electrocute? So you have to kind of scout out your surroundings before you lay down your traps.
Gotcha.
Another gadget that I kind of like is, I think I call them miniature hydraulics in the game, and you can attach them to a door. And then from a distance, you can smack open the door really hard with these hydraulics. So if a guard walks by or is about to enter or whatever, you can smack him and kill him that way. Unless if he's wearing a helmet, then it will just destroy the helmet. But if he's not wearing a helmet, then it will actually kill him.
Oh, that's fantastic. That kind of reminds me of Hotline Miami, except you're doing it remotely instead of just busting through a door to knock somebody over and kill them.
I think my inspiration was from what's it called? Gunpoint, another indie game.
Okay.
where you can
Yeah,
also smack open doors and
yeah. That was the one where you could fling yourself through windows and stuff,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
That was a cool game. That's pretty funny.
I think one of the things I'm trying to achieve with the gadgets is that your character is really fragile, but I want you to have these powerful gadgets that you can sneak around and place, and then from a distance or from a hiding spot trigger them. So to have this kind of interesting balance between being really fragile as a character, but also having these powerful gadgets and weapons at your disposal. I think that's a really interesting dichotomy in gameplay. I think that's something that I think in particular the Batman Arkham games really did successfully is having a kind of fragile superhero character in Batman that also can be taken down in not that many shots. But also having this really powerful arsenal at your disposal. I think that's really something I enjoy personally in games.
Absolutely. My only issue I really ever had with the Batman series is that every now and then it would just kind of dawn on me as like, why is it taking 12 punches to knock out this like one henchman when it takes 4 to knock me out? I'm freaking Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
This guy should not be stronger than me.
And you were wearing Kevlar and a mask and everything, so yeah.
Right, and he's like shirtless in like jumper pants, like his prison uniform.
Yeah, but he has an iron rod that makes him like really powerful for some strange reason.
Right. So if you get into a scrap, if you get found out and you can't sneak away and you've got to fight, what kind of tools do you have for that?
We have like regular weapons, knives, and stun batons and stuff like that. And I have like a melee system that it's probably a bit too complicated right now. At least that's some of the feedback I've been getting from players, even though this is like the third or fourth iteration of the melee system. But it's like you can block and attack, and then it's either high or low, like with your arms or with your legs. So when a character attacks you, you have to like react to his attack and then block him either high or low, and then he'll be stunned, and then you can strike back at him. So there's a bit of a melee close combat system there.
Okay.
And then you can also shoot, of course. Actually, if you do a low attack, melee attack on a character, then you'll kick him away, and then you'll have distance, and then you can shoot him. So you can kind of string some attacks together. But I'm not sure it works all that well currently now. It has to be polished a bit more, at least a better tutorial for it.
Okay.
I think the system is there. I'm just not teaching it probably to the player.
Gotcha. Well, a combat system is better than no combat system. There was oh god, what was it? Now I'm gonna have to look this up in the middle of the interview.
Go ahead.
I think it was Rogue Ops. It was or something along those lines. You played as like this female thief, and you could like take people out from behind. But if you got into combat, your only option was to try to escape. And like there was you couldn't punch them. I think you had like a sleep dart. So if you could like get away, you could then, shoot them from afar. But basically if you botched like knocking somebody out, or somebody saw you and ran up to you and you couldn't get far enough away to shoot them, because it was one of those things where if they're attacking you, then it constantly throws you out of your like being able to shoot them animation.
Yeah.
And it was always just super, super frustrating.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very good game. Okay. I don't recommend people.
Might as well just have like a mission loss screen then if you get caught, instead of
basically, because you essentially just had to restart from a checkpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
If that happened. So you just did it manually.
Yeah.
But oh man, that game came out in 2003. Wow, that's reaching back.
Wow.
A little bit.
And what was it? Rogue Ops.
Rogue Ops. Yep.
Okay.
By Bits Studios, and published by Kimco.
None of that rings a bell with me.
Yeah. Apparently they're looks like they're still in business. No, they closed in 2007. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I was just about to say good for them, but
Yeah.
I guess not.
No. They made the transition to some mobile games, and I guess that's what they made for a little while. I don't know. Anyway, that's not what this show is about. That is just me being me. So you've been working on the game for 8 years now. Part of that is due to you creating your own engine for the game.
Yeah.
Why did you go that route as opposed to licensing one or using somebody else's engine?
That's a really good question. No, I think the thing is that when I started this game, it was going to be a graphical version of the roguelike I had made. And I thought I was going to reuse a whole bunch of code from that. And I think I've ended up reusing practically nothing of it. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I only know Pascal as a programming language. And I don't think there are that many really good engines that use Pascal. So that's another reason. And I think the third reason is that back when I started it, there wasn't actually all that many like indie level game engines available for you to use. It was all like the big engines. I'm not sure when Unity actually first launched, if that even existed back then when I started. It probably did, but probably at an early stage. And still, even if I had chosen that, then I would have to learn a brand new programming language for that.
Right.
So I just went with what I know, actually. And it kind of just snowballed from there. Like I really didn't imagine the game to be what it is now back when I started. Like I had never done any graphic work before, so I pictured it was going to be like really lo-fi pixel art because that would be easier for me to make. Mm-hmm. So it's just sort of grown during the process. And sure, I think if I started over today, I would probably do it 3D in Unity or something like that. Because even though I really like the retro look of pre-rendered 3D sprites, it's just a lot of work. Like all the lighting in the game, I've had to program manually. Okay, how is this light going to transition across this sprite when I draw that to the screen and everything? So that you get all that for free if you use a 3D engine. The lighting is just baked in more or less. So. Right. I'm not sure I made the best choice there, but like I'm really pleased with the game engine I have now, and I can use that in the future for other games if I get the chance to make other games. So,
sure.
So I'm happy where I'm at now.
Okay, very cool. So just randomly, 2 bits of information. Unity first came out actually in 2005, but was exclusive to Mac at that point.
Okay. That would pull me out.
And so it didn't support Android devices as a platform to make games for until version 3, which was 2010. And I feel like that point we still weren't like hearing about it very much. I feel like it was like 2012 or 13 where it started to become more like you could use it for PC, like actual computer games.
Yeah, that feels right like because like Unity being around for like 14 years, that doesn't. It seems odd to me, even though like it has been, but it is not something that's been mentioned for that long.
Right. And I feel like at that point, if you were making a game for consoles or PC, the big thing was obviously Unreal, and then there were other more obscure things like the Crytek engine and stuff like that, and then of course people making their own. But the other thing, I was actually wrong. If anybody was worried that Kimco went out of business, it's actually still in business. They're still making mobile games, but only their Japan office is open. They closed their U.S. office in 2007.
Well,
so
good for the Japanese office then, I guess.
That's right, yeah. To settle everybody's nerves that, obviously I made them worry.
All the Kimco. What was it again?
Kimco.
All the Kimco fans out there. Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, back to Hidden Asset. So as of this recording, your Kickstarter is launching tomorrow, but in wonderful internet time, your Kickstarter is live now.
Yes.
So first of all, why are you going with Kickstarter?
Well, the basic idea is that I want to work on the game full time to finish it and not have it take like another 8 or 10 years or whatever. And I need to pay the bills.
Sure. And you don't want to become an assassin. Understandable.
Well, that might be an alternative.
To know that you're an assassin.
That might be an alternative if the Kickstarter isn't a success. There would be good research as well. So I've saved up some money myself, and then with what I'm hoping to get through the Kickstarter, I would be able to work full time on the game for 2 to 2.5 years, and that should be enough to finish it completely when working on it full time. Okay. So it's that, and then it's also paying for the artwork that goes into the cutscenes. That's the art that I don't make myself.
Okay.
I want that to be like a comic book feel. And all the graphics I make are like pre-rendered 3D, so that doesn't feel very comic-y. So
gotcha. I
need cash for that as well to pay for that.
Okay. So what about the music? Do you make the music yourself, or?
No, that's actually free music. It's what's it called? Creative Commons Attribution License. So I just credited the guy, and I found he's called Kevin MacLeod, and he has a website with, I don't know, hundreds of music clips and short and longer. And I just scoured that completely and found some that I think fit the game, and I'm using that for now. I did consider also hiring a musician. Because music is really important, but I also feel like it has to be a low priority. I can't spend all that much money on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So what are some of the rewards that people can get if they back the game?
They can get into the game if they want to. They can be characters in the game. Some of the lower rewards are just having your name used for a character. Could just be a random character walking around, and if you pay a bit more, you can be a guard. And if you pay even more, you can be, when you hack into computer accounts in offices, it could be your account, it could be a small photo of you, or in the comic book style, and your name, and you can also, if you want to, you can offer suggestions for an email that this computer account has received. And at the very top levels, you can actually be an assassination target. Both your likeness and your name will be used for a target that you have to assassinate in the game. And you could also be one of the guys sitting in the bar in the game, where the bar that the main character lives above.
Okay.
And there are also some physical rewards. There are USB keys with the game on it and mouse pads and all that stuff. And you can also get a reward that is kind of a combination of the physical and the digital, in that it will be this executive gold card with your name and your unique number on it, and then you can use that number in the game to get access to areas in the game that you wouldn't otherwise have access to. You can actually get access to it in the game, but then you have to buy a card in the game for the cash you've earned, and also in order to even be offered that card, you have to accomplish all your missions with 100% stealth rating. So it's something you can acquire in the game, but it's just hard. But if you support the Kickstarter at that bagger level, then you will get a physical card with your unique number on it, and then you can punch that number into places in the game and get access to like these executive level suites or whatever it is. So
okay. Are those types of things going to be, are they going to make the game easier? Is it going to give you special items, or is it just a cool area where you can just have more, opportunities in the level to do stuff?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the latter. I don't want to rule out some players just because they didn't support the Kickstarter at a certain level. So it'll be perhaps a different alternative route through a level that you wouldn't otherwise have access to that easily, at least. And there might even be some computer terminals with some funny emails or some information that you can gather and then sell later on. That's also a game mechanic I don't think I mentioned, is that when you're sneaking around these offices and stuff, you can acquire what I call company intel. And you can then sell that to your information broker for cash. And that could be like just a folder with some company papers hidden in a drawer, or it could be an email on a computer that you hacked into. So that's like an extra way to get players to enjoy sneaking around, because it's not only about avoiding guards and kill characters, it's also about collecting this intel. And there might even be missions where you don't have to kill anyone. You just have to sneak in and get some intel and then sneak back out.
Okay.
So there might also be some extra intel for you to get in these executive level areas that you can get access to.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, you mentioned something kind of talking about this that I meant to ask about earlier, but you have a stealth rating kind of when you finish the game, and from looking at the game and playing a little bit of it, if it gets down to 0, then the cops come and all hell breaks loose.
Correct.
But how is that stealth rating kind of calculated? If you kill people, does it go down? If you get spotted, does it go down? Can you bring it back up? How does all that work?
Yeah, it's if you get spotted by people that aren't just tagged as civilian. When you're in an office building, for example, all the characters will have like a CEO or manager or something like that. And if they're not called civilian, then they will react to seeing you, and then you will lose stealth. But also like characters spotting a dead body or hearing a gunshot. All the things that are hopefully make sense on an intuitive level, that's something you're going to lose stealth if you do. But it could also be that in the second mission you have to talk to a receptionist, and as soon as you enter the building, and if you say the wrong thing to her or press her too hard, then she'll react to that and you'll lose stealth because she'll grow suspicious of you. So there's like there's more or less hard-coded everything that an NPC can react to will result in a specific amount of stealth loss, with like 1 or 2 random points applied to that. And then that will pull your meter down, and like you said, if that meter gets down to 0, then the police will show up in the scene, and it's going to be pretty hard for you to get out. You can get out, but it's just going to be harder because then you'll have police patrolling the corridors of the office building or wherever it is you are. So that's kind of the system with that. And then when you've completed the mission, if you're like at 50% stealth, then you only get 50% of the maximum payout you were going to get if you completed it at a 100% stealth rating. So that plays into that. Okay.
So do the police behave kind of the same way that the other guards and stuff will? That, you know, if you get spotted, or, you know, if they show up, do they just know where you are, or can you lose them? How does that work?
They will start running or walking around the building much more randomly than the usual guards. And if they see you, they will attack you immediately. So they will shoot at you and try to kill you as soon as they spot you. So they are really hard enemies. And gotcha. A lot of them also have like bulletproof vests or helmets on, so you can't always sneak up behind them and kill them just as easily as you can the guards. So I did consider just having like a mission failed state if your stealth reaches 0. But in a way, I kind of feel it feels so artificial to me, and I kind of wanted to give the player one last chance to get out with their life somewhat intact if their stealth reaches 0. I don't know. I guess people are probably going to restart the level anyway, because if your stealth reaches 0, you're not going to get a payout for that particular mission anyway. So
okay. So completely, you don't get any money whatsoever?
Absolutely. Except if you've gathered some company intel, then you can sell that still.
Okay.
So yeah.
If you finish a level that you're not getting paid for the mission itself, but you get stuff that you can sell, can you go back and replay missions, or is it once you finish a mission it's on to the next one?
You can replay in the demo, but for the full game I have a system in mind where you will be able to replay a level, and I've kind of tried to incorporate that into the story, in that when you replay a level, you're the main character going to sleep and having nightmares about the stuff he's done and the characters he's killed. So when you replay a level, it'll be more or less the same level, but there will be these odd things that maybe sometimes the guards will switch into looking like you just for a brief second. All these weird little nightmare things. Just to give like extra flavor to the whole replaying a level part.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
I kind of like that. Would you still be able to make money from that, or would it just be to replay it for the sake of kind of playing it in that remix mode?
No, you will get extra money, and that's kind of where the realism of it falls apart. Because when you then wake up, then you will have the extra money if you completed the level with a better stealth level than you did before. Then you'll just suddenly have all the money that would be the difference between these two stealth levels.
Gotcha.
And also, if you pick up some company intel that you didn't pick up on the first run through of the level, then you'll also suddenly have that in your inventory.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So back to the whole Kickstarter aspect of it. The sad question that I have to ask: what happens if this doesn't work out?
Yeah, I'll definitely continue to work on it no matter what, and then I'll sort of take the data from the Kickstarter and see, okay, how close was I to the goal? If I'm like $10,000 or $20,000 from the goal, can I relaunch and then just have a lower goal and probably have fewer missions in the game or whatever? The thing is that if the Kickstarter fails, I'll not be able to work on it full time, and then I don't know, I'll be 50 when it finishes. if I even do finish it, then at that point. So yeah, I suppose it is kind of make or break in that way, that if I don't succeed with a Kickstarter and I'm allowed to work on it full time, then I'm not sure when or if it will ever be launched as a full game. I will continue to work on it just because I enjoy that, but when it would be finished would be completely unknown.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I think that does it for my questions about the game itself. Now we like to end our show with a little thing that we call the end game. It's a terrible way to end the show because the questions start off difficult and only get more difficult. But it's great fun for me, and usually everybody has a good time by the end. And I can always edit out the silence of you thinking.
Okay,
so,
good.
First question is pretty simple, and it's who's your favorite character? It can be hero, sidekick, villain, whatever the case may be, but who is your favorite video game character?
Is that character to play or just character you enjoy as a character?
Just character that you enjoy.
Okay. I think the first one that pops to mind is Gomez from Fez.
Okay.
I think he added something to the game. He's just this kind of cuddly, optimistic, cute guy, but also had this amazing sense of wonder to what happened to him throughout the game. And I think that kind of rubbed off on me to also share this wonder that he feels, even though he doesn't really say all that much. And when he does, it's like this cutesy muffled sounds or whatever it was. I think I really enjoyed him as a character.
Okay.
And I think I also mentioned before that one of the things in Batman Arkham series that I enjoyed was playing this powerful but also fragile character. So I think I enjoy playing as Batman more than I enjoy him just as a character, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you could experience any game over again for the first time, whether it's just something that you love and you had a great first impression, but you can never see that game the same way again. But if you could actually do that, and it's not hampered by age or anything like that. It's not, you don't have to worry about that. But if you could just re-experience a game again for the first time, what do you think it would be?
Well, my two favorite games are the original XCOM and Wing Commander Privateer. So I suppose it would have to be one of those.
Okay.
Just being back in that feeling of being young and being completely absorbed and engaged in this game for like a whole summer, more or less, I think it was. But I guess there's also the aspect of if you can experience it like for the first time. I'm thinking if there's any games that had like interesting twists or something you would like to experience again for the first time. I can't think of any offhand. No, I think I go with the original XCOM and Wing Commander Privateer.
Okay. So kind of changing that a little bit, is there any game that you would like to give a second chance that maybe, there was something that you admired about it, but it just didn't hit you the right way, and you would like to be able to kind of give, or maybe you played it at just a bad point in your life or something like that, but something that you would just like to give another shot?
Yeah. I'm thinking Red Dead Redemption.
Okay.
I really admired that game and the world and exploring the world and living in the world. But there were just some really frustrating, annoying instances. One comes to mind where I think I don't know if it's like the tutorial for using the lasso or something, but you're riding on horseback and you have to catch these cows or something. But you've got like a female sidekick or something riding along with you. And I found the controls really frustrating and I couldn't do it. And she just keeps going, come on, do it, or something like that. Just some annoying line that just kept repeating. And I was getting more and more infuriated and just wanted to smash the controller in the end. So that was kind of a bad experience in an otherwise pretty amazing game, I feel. But also a very narrative-driven game. So I don't know. Maybe I'll give that game another chance at some point.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's that. Anytime a character, like, you're expected to do something in a video game and somebody is just like continually nagging you, and you're like, I'm figuring this out. Just calm down. It's
like this combination of frustrating controls and an in-game character just constantly nagging you and being on your back. That was a breaking point for me.
Yeah. Which it's funny because that character, Bonnie McFarlane, is like her character is not. She's not annoying. She's pretty supportive. Absolutely. But it's just like when the game side of it, the programming of it, not her personality, but that they coded her just to say, you can do it. Come on, get the cow or whatever the case may be. It's like, okay, just like stop, chill.
I should probably just have taken off the headphones or something and just not listen to her, but like, I wanted the full experience.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so what is a good trend in video games currently that you like and would want to see more of?
Good trend. I'm not sure of like a really recent trend or anything that's particularly popular right now, but I like when games try to incorporate the gameplay into the narrative pretty directly. And I think one of the first examples I can think of is BioShock, that big reveal towards the end with the whole would you kindly thing, the brainwashing. The way that narrative twist completely mirrored the experience that the player has had by listening to this character Atlas or whatever he's called over the radio and just doing whatever he tells you. I thought that was pretty brilliant. I'm not sure if it added all that much to the gameplay or the game in general, but I just like that idea of merging the gameplay and the narrative. Also in Fest, that actually also does that, with the whole 2D, 3D thing, where the main character gets this vest, this hat, and that allows him to see the third dimension in his world, and suddenly the player can rotate the map, and this whole thing about like there being a 2D world and a 3D world, how that reflects the gameplay in the narrative. I think I really like that when games do that.
Sure.
And I think that's also really what games can do, as opposed to movies where there's just a narrative. And also what we talked about earlier, that's often the narrative is just slapped on top of the gameplay. But like really incorporating the gameplay with the narrative, that's something I would like to see a lot more of.
Absolutely. Anytime I hear somebody say that they want to see like a BioShock movie, I'm like, no, that goes completely against like that. The twist only works when you as a player have been conditioned to follow the directions of, the person in your headset. And so when you go, oh wow, I've been culpable in this whole time. That's amazing. Yeah. Like that twist doesn't work if you just find out that the main character has been, hypnotized to do everything that someone says when they say, "Would you kindly?"
Yeah,
like it just
that would be such
apart.
a downer and a bad twist in the movie. Like it wouldn't work at all. That's okay. It's like the really bad. Oh, it was all just a dream twist. It's on that level.
Right. Absolutely. So, what on the reverse side of that? What is a trope in video games that you wish you could see less of or would go away? And you can't say just slapping narratives onto things because we've already covered that.
Damn. Well, the obvious is like all the microtransactions and monetization of games. But I think that's going to die out naturally when players get. Well, I think it's already something that's turning around because players have grown tired of it. I think more in general, I would like for especially AAA games to not focus that much on graphics. It's like we get these more and more powerful machines, and what do most AAA games do with it? They just make more beautiful and detailed graphics and bigger worlds. I would like to. I'm not sure what it would be, but using all that CPU power for something else. I think an example would be what's it called? Shadows of Mordor. That whole what was it called? Nemesis system, I think it was. I'm not sure if that is something that required a lot of CPU power, but I just remember that I wanted to buy it on my Xbox 360, and for some reason that system wasn't in that version of the game. I'm actually not sure why, but I just assumed, okay, it's because the Xbox 360 isn't powerful enough to run that entire system. And if that is the case, then I find that really interesting that they had this entire system that used the power of the PC, the desktop PC, instead of just using all that CPU power or graphics power, whatever it was for better graphics. I understand, of course, why it is the way it is, because it's easier to sell a game in a trailer if it has amazing graphics than it is to sell a game based on some amazing revolutionary system that players have to experience for themselves to understand. So it makes sense from a marketing and business standpoint, but I just wish it was different.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, you can directly see an upgrade in graphics, but you can't. You can. It's just much more difficult to show.
Visually in a trailer, like if you have like a 30-second trailer, okay, it's just going to be like money shot after money shot, and amazing graphics. That's what sells, and I think it's kind of like I would like for it to have for what happened to movies versus TV series to happen for games, if that makes any sense. Like, for a long time, a TV series was this low-budget thing that only failed movie stars ended up in. And then just suddenly with Game of Thrones and Sopranos and all that stuff, it became something different that wasn't just about having this huge cinematic blockbuster experience. It was about telling these good stories. And if somehow that the same thing could happen to to big games. I'm not sure how exactly, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly if that analogy works, but
no, that makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the role that indie games play is almost like the TV to movies, where you don't have to make a game for everybody because you're not spending so much money on making it beautiful and bombastic and all these things so that everybody literally has to buy it for you to recoup your money.
Yeah.
You can focus on the smaller details of it. But, we've also, over the years, have kind of lost that middle ground of video games, where we had, the AA, mid-tier kind of, made by bigger studios, but still not your AAA game. And hopefully that can kind of come back because we've got the really great Netflix series and Amazon series and HBO shows where they're, more like big movies in a lot of ways, but at the same time, they're these much more elongated stories that you can dive deeper into than just a 2-hour-long movie. So hopefully at some point that kind of range of video games can return.
That would definitely be nice. I don't know if it's just an issue of all the game developers being gobbled up by the big EA and all those companies that have to satisfy their stockholders, and that's why they only make these big games. I'm not sure why it is. Hopefully it will change at some point.
Hopefully, which we're not actually changing the universe right now. We're just saying what we wish would happen.
Exactly.
So, all right. So second to last question: if there's any other profession that you would like to give a shot, it can be as crazy as being an astronaut or a Jedi or whatever. What is something that if you no holds barred, if you could try a profession, what would you like it to be?
Well, I did try to be a screenwriter.
Right. So you already tried that, so you can't use that. That's cheating.
How about a successful screenwriter then?
I feel like that's still a little cheating.
Man, I don't know. Politician sounds so dry on the surface, but I think there's something interesting about fighting for something you believe in government, and trying to make the world better through that. But on the other hand, I also suspect that a lot of politicians wanted to make the world a better place before they became politicians and then kind of lost sight of that. That's a tough one. But yeah, you mentioned astronaut, and I've also been really obsessed with the universe and astrophysics and all that stuff when I was a kid, and 2001 the movie and all that science fiction stuff. So maybe just trying to be an astronaut, if that wouldn't actually be really disappointing to me because I have these sci-fi stories in mind instead. So maybe it's just a day job like any other when you get down to it. So yeah, I'm not sure actually.
Okay,
that's a tough question. Kind of tougher than you think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
absolutely. All right. So final question: at the end of your life, you get to the gates of the Mushroom Kingdom, and you find out the afterlife is, of course, the Mushroom Kingdom, not heaven, as we were previously told. And Toad is there at the gates before, to let you in. What would you like him to say to you before you enter into the afterlife?
All right, that's a tough one. I've been a PC player, so I'm not all into the Mario world. But who's Toad exactly?
Okay, so Toad is the guy that says the princess is in another castle.
Oh, okay. Who's Bowser then?
Bowser's the guy that kidnaps.
Oh yeah, right. Okay,
Princess
Bowser's the
Peach.
guy that kidnaps, and Toad is the one that tells you where she is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here we go. You get to the gates of City 17, and Gordon Freeman is there. What do you want him to say to you?
I think I'd be shocked by pretty much anything he said, because isn't he a completely silent the protagonist?
Yeah, that fell apart as I was trying to come up with a PC relevant character.
No, that's good. That's good. Gordon Freeman. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm completely drawing a blank on that. If he has to say something, I would probably ask him when Half-Life 3 is going to come out, because if anybody would know, he would. And I would be so popular if I knew the answer to that. So
that's true. That is true. All right, well, that does it for our questions about the game and the end game, which I just realized is the name of the new Avengers movie, and we've been using that for a long time, so they should be paying us money. Of course, I have it written in 2 words. It's End Space Game, so I guess that changes everything.
Okay, you're in the clear.
But so to send us out, if you could let our listeners know where they can go to find out and actually play Hidden Asset.
Sure. Laserbrainstudios.com. And that's laser with an S. Either that or just laserbrain.com. That will also redirect to the front page. And the Kickstarter, I don't know the URL currently because that isn't generated until I launch the Kickstarter. But laserbrainstudios.com/kick, that will redirect to the Kickstarter when it launches.
Okay.
So, yep.
Excellent. All right. Well, good luck with the Kickstarter as that gets going.
Thanks so much.
With the rest of development on Hidden Assets. Hopefully, in a couple of years, we can sit down and talk about whatever your next game is after this has become a huge success.
That would be so great. And thank you for having me on.